Meet Scott Glenn. His Joe Wade in The River is one of the more interesting villains, I guess I could say, Scott, because your villain really is so sympathetic, I think, throughout the film. And I was wondering if you could take us into the genesis of this character a little bit. At one point, was Joe Wade to have been a little harsher than he ultimately is?
Maybe in the minds of some studio executives months before we started work, but certainly not. When Mark sent me the script, he called me up and he said, "I've got a part that I think you're really right for, and I want you to do it." And my inclination at the time was just to say, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it," without even reading it, because I've known Mark from the Actors Studio here in New York since the mid-'60s, and I admire him as a filmmaker, and also know that he speaks my kind of language, so that just in terms of shop talk. So I was inclined to do it. But he also told me, he said, "You know, this guy's position in the film is that of a villain," but he said, "I don't know that he is, and I certainly wouldn't want you to ever think of him that way." So I read the script, and I never thought of the guy as a villain. I thought he was fascinating because he takes the position in the film which is sort of counter to the family, to Sissy and Mel and their kids. But I think what he's really about is a man who sees himself as being the wave of the future, yeah, and the only viable alternative for that part of the country, which has right now 65 to 70% unemployment. He realizes that if he manages to do everything that he wants to do, aside from getting richer himself, he'll be bringing vastly improved communications, transportation, and employment to a place, and incidental things. The infant mortality rate will drop. The quality of life will increase in a lot of different ways. What the guy is ruthless. He's a man who believes absolutely the ends justifies the means. So if he says that this ends are so good, if I've got to break the law, if I've got to step over people, if a few people have to get hurt, assuming that social morality means the greatest good for the greatest number, then these 8 or 9 family-owned traditional bottomland farms are going to have to go.
And yet we're given more than a few hints that some of your motivations are wrapped up in your affection for Sissy Spacek. You're caring for the quality of her daily life with the family.
Yeah, that's true. The character that I play had a past relationship with her. They used to. Joe Wade was her first lover, and he went away to college. This is not in the film, but it was something we all agreed on prior to shooting it. When he went away to Texas A&M on a scholarship, it was assumed he was going to come back and marry her, by both her and him. And he met another girl there and married her, and it turns out her father was the president of a giant agribusiness concern. And by the time we find Joe Wade in the movie and Tom and May Garvey, Wade has moved back to the town and is trying to do the things I just mentioned. But you're quite right, he's also realizes he's still in love with Sissy, and wishes that they were together, married, and wishes that he could raise her kids.
All of the thing that goes into casting fascinates me, because I kept wondering at the same time how you might have fared had you reversed roles with Mel Gibson. Was there ever any potentials in the casting in that regard?
No. It was the film was Mel Gibson, was Sissy Spacek and Mel Gibson. And originally, a long time before I ever saw the script, there was no Joe Wade character, none at all. It was Mark's idea to put the character in because he wanted some kind of real dramatic tension, a kind of emotional undertone, of a smaller, more concentrated emotional story that everyone could relate to, could hook onto. So I don't think there was never ever any question of parts being reversed or anything like that. And that's an interesting thought, but I never thought of it.
Tell me about your work with Mark Rydell with Actors Studio. I'm unfamiliar with that whole history.
A lot of stuff has been said about the work that they do there, but I think basically what it is, it's a place where you learn your own personal methodology of approaching a part. What distinguishes a place like the Actors Studio from a place like, say, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art is we learn to work on a part from the inside out, so that you first make your own personal emotional connections with a part. You first decide at the deepest part of your own being who the character is and how that character connects with you in your own life. and then begin adding things like makeup, accent, wardrobe, mannerisms, knee-jerk reactions, all that kind of stuff.
Well, does that mean that he has directed you on the stage?
No, he never has.
These
But
kinds of things?
this is the first time we've ever worked together. I've seen Mark work with other people at the Actors Studio. The point of our connection with that place is simply that we both understand and approach acting in similar ways. We both have the same foundation, so that when he asks me to do something, or wants something from me, he can communicate that in a very, very short period of time with very few words, and I understand right away what he means and know how to go about it. So there's a lot of wasted time that's circumvented by that.
I'd like to congratulate you in closing just on a personal favorite of mine, The Keep. I thought it was a wonderful picture, and I'm wondering how you feel about that film in retrospect, and did it get the exposure that it merited in your mind?
It's hard for me to say about exposure that anything merits. What I can say about the film is that Michael Mann, I think, is a brilliant director. He's also my friend, and I loved working with him. It's an amazing experience to work with Michael, because it's like, I guess it would be kind of like what it might have been to play football under Vince Lombardi. Michael gets 105% out of everybody, and I liked working on the film a lot. The film itself, I think, had a lot of has a lot of good and important things to say. There were problems with the studio. There were problems with what I thought was turned out to be an unreal release date or deadline. But that's an actor talking.
You have to maintain terms with yourself in the face of such frustrations, I guess. You have to keep your own sense of equilibrium.
Well, it's not hard. I've been acting since the mid-'60s, and I went through 14 or 15 years of almost solid rejection. So the fact that I'm working at all is a blessing to me.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a blessing for us in the audiences as well. In The River, he's Joe Wade, a most interesting kind of villain, and I use that term with lots of qualifications. From New York City for KCTV5, this is John Tibbetts.